Hello, my name is Maurice Cheriam, and I'm going to be your host today for What's New for SOLIDWORks 2012 Routing, CircuitWorks, and Import-Export. So today we'll be focusing in mainly on the routing and CircuitWorks side of things. So we'll go ahead and get started. So again, my name is Maurice Cheriam, and we'll go ahead and get started now. So I'm going to start with the agenda. And I'm going to start with what's new in piping, including showing you the new spool functionality and how you can break up pipe routes and actually tube routes too. Secondly, I'll go into the electrical wiring side where they've added a new Splice functionality. And in CircuitWorks, there's now a new format that'll help collaborate better with your mechanical group with the electrical group on the ECAD side. And go over what's also new on importing files, bringing in STEP and IHS files, and end with what's new in exporting DXF and DWG files. There's some new options when you save out those formats. So we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start with what's new for routing on the piping side. And the new functionality, the main thing they've added is the ability to add spools. Spools are a way to break up pipe routes into smaller pieces to divide them to help on the manufacturing side, transportation, and other reasons for breaking them up. And then also when you are showing the annotation, showing the drawings, you can actually break up the spools and show them on separate sheets on the drawings. So the pipe drawing command will let you pick those individual spools and show those on individual sheets to help show the design better for the end users. It is also available for flexible tubing. Alright, so the spool command is under two spots. You can right click over the routing of the route itself and you can actually get to define spools, or you can click on routing, piping, and go to define spools. All the segments of the spool must be contiguous. They do not allow any gaps in the spool, and you can only at this point define one spool at a time. And also when I show this, I'm going to show the bill of material option to combine all the pipes as the same size, so you can see the total tube length if you want, or pipe length. You also can now dimension from flanges, and there are some new template functionality where you can actually specify elbows and schedule and show some of that, where you can have a specific template for the pipe routes where you don't have to always fill in that information for a specific schedule or want to show, use specific elbows, stuff like that. Alright, so we're going to get started. So when you first get started, if you haven't turned on an add-in before, in this case we go to Tools, Add-ins, and select the add-in for wire routing. So how do you turn on the add-ins? You just go over here to the where the options are here. You can go to Add-ins, or you could go to Tools, Add-ins. So here's the one for routing. So do you want to see the add-in turned on all the time? Every time you fire up SOLIDWORks, you would just go ahead and turn it on here. So I have this turned on, and I'll start with a easier route to see here. Okay, so I just started with a real simple route so we can show you the spool functionality. So you can go over here to start the spool by clicking Define Spools, or you can go to Routing, Piping, Define Spools, and then in this case you can pick the entities you want. I'll start with an easy one here. So you can name the spool whatever you want. And you can change the color of it. In this case, I'll go with the purple pink color here. And you can see you can also add adjoining components. So there's one spool. And then when I go back and say routing, piping, here's another spool. It'll add the adjoining components to it. You can see it will add the you can see it will follow through continuously. And now you'll see that the one spool comes in this case blue, the other spool shows up in purple. Now when I go back into this subassembly, you can see if I go to routing, you will see under routing, under piping, you will see that here's the pipe drawings. So it will ask me which spool I want to show. In this case, I'll bring it up on a little bigger drawing here. So I can say to show the route sketch. And so you can see what this is going to look like here. You don't have to show the route sketch if you don't want to. Here you can see it shows the center lines of it. You can show it without it if you don't want to. Now the thing they also added with the bill of material, which is nice, let's shrink this down a little bit. So you can see now it shows the overall length. If I click on the upper left hand corner, you can see I can say group the pipes, so you can see the different quantities and different sizes here, or I can group them all together. So you can see that they have the total length in here. So you can see the quantity and the length combined together to show you the total number in here. Again, with this functionality, you go into routing, piping, and I'll go back to the original one. So routing, piping, and here is again the pipe drawing. And so you can pick, and you can see here it says show route sketch, so you can leave the sketch out if you don't want to see that. And now you can see what this spool is going to look like. And also you can see I can again change that size. Back in the assembly, the other thing that you can do that you couldn't do before is the actual pipe length here. When you smart dimension now, you can smart dimension to the flange, to the face of the flange here. So I'll make that a driven dimension, and this one we can make that a driver. So you couldn't make that the driving dimension before, so that's actually based on the end of the flange here. So now we'll go to a more sophisticated, a little bit more realistic example where you can see it actually in a plant design here. So here's my assembly that has multiple pipe routes in here. So we'll focus in on this pipe route 2 here. So I can go to the route and say define a spool, or I can go to tools or routing, piping. Here's define spools. So I'll go ahead and name this first one storage 1. I'll change the color on here. So I'm going to pick those segments. In this case, I can go through the different fittings, the valves, and I'll end it right there. That's fine. So you can see the orange highlight there. And I'll go ahead and add another one. So again, I can just go to route. I'll go define spool. And now I'm going to start one over here on this end. I'll just start it from the flange. And again, grab all the fittings. It's going to be a continuous loop. Just about got them all. There we go. Made that second spool. Once again, when you go into the routing, you can see under piping, here's the pipe drawing. So I'll pick the second storage one to show it. So you can see it's put the balloons in there already for me. And you can see it put the total length in here. And you can toggle that. You can say group it together. You can see all the different sizes in here. Or you can group it together and just show the total of that same size here. So you can break it up and see the different quantities and the different sizes, or you can group them together. Alright, so that shows you a little bit on the routing side for the piping side of routing. If you ever wanted to try this out with the tubing, if you ever wanted to try this out on tubing, you can see here's define spools. And you can get to it here too, so you can break up tubing routes too with the spool functionality. Alright, so now we'll go back to the slides. One last thing I wanted to show you that's new in SOLIDWORKS 2012 in routing on the piping side is they added a specific template. You can create custom templates for piping to predefine things like pipe schedule, different sizes and selections of elbows. So I'm just going to go ahead and show you that. So this is something that applies to the piping side, and it's in the library. So let me go ahead and bring up the SOLIDWORks library here. So under routing, you'll see here under routing tools, here's the routing library manager, and they updated this in 2011, and it's its own standalone interface now, its own application. And now down here there's this new one called route properties. Now this is specific to piping, and I've added one already here, so you can see here it has select route properties template. So here's a default one, here's a schedule 41, and then you can see it has, you can see there's different, you can have different wall gaps, standard length, you can have different elbows and use different schedules. In this case I have one for schedule 40. So you can see I can use specific elbows, different sizes, and have a range of sizes. So this is available in 2012, and when you save these settings, when you start a new route, you'll see, and again, that how to get to the library was under routing tools, and here's the routing library manager. So now when I create a new pipe route, now I'm about to create the new pipe route here. So once I get started, you'll see that what's new for 2012 is that they do have different templates now for the pipe route. So I can say schedule 40, and it will go ahead and select, in this case, a different elbow. In this case, a schedule 40 size, and then I can go ahead and start my route. So again, that is something that's new, to where you can actually specify schedule, elbows, different configs for the pipes. So that's something that's new for 2012. And again, this only applies on the piping side of things. So I'll go back to the slides now. So now that we've gone through what's new for piping in 2012, now let's go to what's new in routing on the electrical side. So what they added for the electrical side of routing is a new command called the Splice command. Now the Splice command, there's two ways to get to it. You can go through and go to the menus and go to routing, electrical, and you'll find the add splice command here. Or you can just right click on a split, an existing split, and right click on it and add a splice. You want to do the split first before you use the splice, and then we recommend you change it from a junction point to a split point. And then if you do want to use a splice inside of a from to list, you want to use an asterisk for the syntax for that. Right now the splice feature only supports a single connection point. So right now it's just a single connection point. Alright, now let's go ahead and go back to SOLIDWORks. And I'm going to bring up an assembly that I've used before, that some of you might recognize before from some other webcast. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new wire route, and I'm going to have two connectors over here and then one here off the motherboard. So I'm going to add a 3-pin connector here to get this started. I already have the setting on automatically start route from drop of connectors or clips, and so now I'm going to go ahead and take the default, take the setting here for the outer diameter. So I'm going to start. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new route, and now I'm going to add 2 more connectors. So I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see those better. So there's that connector and one more. Alright, so now I'm going to auto route from this stub of this connector over to this stub to get started. So I have my first part of the route. Now the split route, you can right click and you can get to split route here, or you can always go to the command manager tab for electrical and you can see split routes right there. So either way you get to it, it's almost like adding a spline point. So I'll go ahead and pick somewhere close to the connector here. Now it's going to have a JP, and I can search on it and sort on it. So here's JP4. So I'm going to slow double click to rename it. If I wanted to, I can always just hit F2. And best practice is to change it from a junction point to a split point. And that's going to help clear any confusion, and it'll help on a from to list and things like that. So now that I have that split point, now I'll go ahead and either right click on it and I can say add a splice, or I can go to routing, electrical, and here's add splice. So either way to get to it. So I'm going to go ahead and say add a splice, and I'm going to pick right on the junction there. I'll pick my size, going with a little bigger size here. So now I've just added the splice. I'm going to say OK, and you can see it's a green cylindrical shape extrusion here, and there is the splice as a little line segment in there. Now what I can do is now I can go back to auto route, and now I can route this from here over to that splice point, and you can see what it's going to look like now. So now I've just added that splice point, added the splice after I split it, and if you wanted to, you can, if I use the tab command, I can hide some of these components right away, and you can see what it looks like here. I'll hide this one too. So you can see what the command looks like. If I use Shift Tab, I can bring back those hidden components. So you can see what the splice looks like here. And now I could finish up by going into, in this case, I could go into, if I go to Edit Route again, I could go into the route segment properties, or go up to Edit Wires, and then finish up by picking the pin selection and things like that. Alright, so now you can see what the splice looks like here. Now I'm going to go back to the slides again. So again, on the splice, you want to split the route first, and then change the junction to say either JP1 or 2 or 3 to SP1, 2, 3. If you are again going to use this on a from to list, an asterisk will represent the splice, and again, the splice feature only supports a single connection point. Alright, so that's what's new for electrical routing for 2012. Now we'll go ahead and move on. So now we'll go ahead and move on. So I'm going to go back to the slides now, and now I'm going to go over what's new for 2012 in CircuitWorks. So the big change in CircuitWorks 2012 is the support of EDMD ProStep format. It has an IDX extension. So that's been added to 2012. It helps to give incremental changes between electrical and mechanical groups. And we're starting to see that this IDX format is gaining traction, and it's starting to be used more than the IDF format in some cases. So the IDX file format is going to give the ability for the electrical group to hand over and hand changes over the cube wall there in a sense, and be able to be accepted or rejected. You can see them actually get animated. So I'm going to show you that in SOLIDWORks now. I'm going to go back to SOLIDWORks now. I'm going to open up this charger. So this charger has a circuit board in here. We'll go ahead and open that up. So this circuit board is inside this assembly. I'll just go ahead and open that up. And the PCB board assembly here. Now CircuitWorks I've already turned on by going to add-ins, and you can see CircuitWorks right here. And now I'm going to go to the CircuitWorks tab. I'm going to go ahead and export this to the CircuitWorks application. So I'm going to export this to the CircuitWorks application. Here's the new tab for electronic data, mechanical data. So I exported the CircuitWorks, exported the PCB assembly here to CircuitWorks. Here's the new electronic data, mechanical data tab. Here you can see I can sync this up. And I'll go ahead and name this new. I'm going to go ahead and name this new. I'm going to name this new. I'm going to name this new charger PCB. This is going to set the baseline. I'll go ahead and say OK to that. Now I want to go ahead and simulate what it will look like. I'm going to simulate what it's going to look like to actually have a change come in. And now you can see there's going to be a message that comes up. It says a change has been received from the ECAD for the board charger. Do you want to see those changes? Now I was able to simulate this. I don't have an ECAD system on this computer, so I was just running a file to simulate this, but you can see this is what it would come up with when you received a change back from the electrical group or the electrical design team. So you can see what the message was going to say. So now I'll say, do you want to see the changes? Yes. Then you would see the changes come up. And you can now see the changes come up down here. And here would show the changes on here. So the changes would show in red, and then you would be able to accept or reject those. And you can see now there's accept change or reject change. So now you can see the changes will come up in red. You can see they're showing here. They will show the changes coming up. So you can see I've accepted the changes. And now you can see now the changes have been updated to the CircuitWorks, from CircuitWorks back to the PCB board. And you can see I can actually now go in here and say, you know what, let's take a look at these. Let's check this out and see. I'm going to say review. I'll say looks okay. Need to review it first, so then I'll be able to look at it. And now I can see the changes here. So now it added to the board, it added the different components here to it. And now you can see, I just wanted to show all the components hidden here. So you can see now what happened here. They put in those components. And if I hold Shift Tab, I can bring back the components. Now we do have a design change that we wanted to add a hole here to be able to get to the batteries a little bit better. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to a different configuration. And now you're going to see that there's going to be a couple components in the way here. So we can go ahead and move those around. So I'll go ahead and move those around, and then we'll be able to send those changes back the other direction. So I'll go back to that assembly. So I'll open up the assembly again, and you can see that these components are in the wrong location here. I want to move these components around a little bit. Now I'm going to go back over to CircuitWorks, and before I do that, I'm going to make sure that now I can see that the components aren't in the way of that hole. I'll show the cover again. So now you can see that that hole doesn't have any of the components sticking through. So I'll go back to the PCB board, and now with this I'll get back into CircuitWorks. Okay, you can see all the components that were added in red. So you can see the component changes. Now I'm going to go back into, I'm going to export this back to CircuitWorks. So now it says change order found will be sent to the ECAD system. So now I'm going to go ahead and put a note back in here saying moved components around clearance hole, and now that'll work. So you can see here it says awaiting response back from ECAD. So now you can see I can keep track of this, and you can see now the second set of changes here, awaiting response back from ECAD. So there is this back and forth that happens between, in this case, the electronic CAD department or the electrical department or group, and us on the SolidWorks side here working on the mechanical side. So we'll be able to see the changes there, and you can see how they highlight, and you can see how they move around here, so you can see it animated too. So these are the new things that you can see for the, it says ED, MD, this is for the electrical data and mechanical data, and so you get that interaction between both groups, and you can accept and reject changes. So you can see that there's animation here, so really helping to collaborate between the different departments here. So these are what's new. These are some of the things that are what's new in CircuitWorks. So I'll go back to the slides now. Alright, so now I'll go back to the slides, and we'll go over the last step, or the last of what's new for 2012 is on importing files. There's a big performance gain on importing files such as Parasolid Step and a new format IFC. The file saving is eliminated, where it would automatically save all the files no matter if you wanted to or not. In this case, we're seeing performance gains of 30 up to 50%, and if it's a more boxy prismatic part, we're seeing a lot of benefit there. So you choose the files that are going to be saved after you open these up in SolidWorks. You might only need to save a sub-assembly, something like that, instead of it automatically saving all the files. So that's the big performance gain. I'm going to show you that here in a few minutes inside of SolidWorks. So one of the things they did is you can now import in Pro-E files up to Creo Elements Pro 5.0 format. It does now also support unit graphics files up to version 7.5. and the IFC format is a new one that they just added for SOLIDWORks 2012. So now I'll go ahead and go back into SOLIDWORks and show you the import capability. So when I first try to open up a file, in this case it's going to be sorting on parts, assemblies, or drawings. So either go to all files to find, in this case, a step file, or I can go ahead and directly grab the step file from here. And you do have options. One option to note is, see, import multiple bodies as parts. You can see it does say try to form solid. So usually those defaults, I usually leave them the way they are. Running import diagnostics to help too. So I usually leave the defaults as they are. So I'll go ahead and open this up. This part, or this assembly, has a lot of components. I think most of them are instances, but you can see it brought it up very quickly. It's already up and open. We can look to see how many parts are actually in here. So if I go to Assembly Export, I can see it's got 65 components. It has 65 components. There are 51 parts. You can see there's 13 unique parts. It's got 8 unique sub-assemblies. So you can see it brought it up pretty quickly, and you didn't have to wait a long time for this thing to run through it. It brought it up very quickly. So now the other thing that they've done for importing is on the 2D drawing side of things. So I'm going to go back into the slides. So I'm going to go back to the slides here. They've also added, in this case, some DXF and DWG export functionality. So you can, when you save out a drawing, you can save multiple sheet drawings to the paper space, export them all into one file. So you can now export a multiple sheet drawing. All the sheets can be put into one file and added to the paper space. So I'll show you where these functions or these options are. So I'll go back to SOLIDWORks here. I'm going to open up a multiple sheet drawing. This particular drawing has 1, 2, 3 sheets on here. And so now when I go over to File, Save As, and I go down to Type, you'll see that here under DXF and DWG, you can see I can click on Options, and here's the new functionality for 2012. Multiple sheet drawing, you can say export active sheet only, export all sheets into separate files, export all sheets into one file, and then here's export all drawing sheets into paper space. So if I go ahead and do that, I'll go ahead and leave that setting there. This is going to be a DXF. So you can see it's still doing the conversion, so it's converting it over. This works for DXF or DWG file format. So now that I've exported out in DXF, I just want to show you what it looks like once you actually try to open it back up, if you needed to open it up again inside of SOLIDWORks. But I just wanted to show how it combined those together. So here's that DXF I just created. So you can see it wants to know if I'm going to create a new drawing or a new part. So I'll keep it as a drawing. And I just want to show you. You can see here are those 3 different sheets all coming across as one file, and this is all on that one paper space. So I just wanted to show that. Alright, now I'll go back to the slides again. Alright, again you can see here's export all sheets into one file, export all drawing sheets to paper space. Alright, that'll do it for us here today, so thanks for attending. That's going to complete our What's New for SOLIDWORks for CircuitWorks, routing, and the new import functionality. Alright, thanks for attending. And if you have any questions, you can always email us at support@ddicad.com or call 800-575-7543 if you have any questions or if you'd like to get a copy of this presentation. Thank you very much.